Good afternoon / evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to Council meeting number 19 for Tuesday, September 24, 2024. I will now call the meeting to order. We have regrets tonight from Councillor McKelvey, and Councillor Roodenburg is joining us on Zoom. And Councillor Roodenburg does have a verbal report under J2, and because Councillor Roodenburg has a pending appointment, we're going to bring item J2 to the front of the agenda. I'd like to take this opportunity to recognize that we meet on the traditional territory of the Lhtako Dene Nation. I would now like to receive a motion for approval of the agenda. However, before we do that, we've got a couple of late agenda items. There is a letter that Councillor Elliott, thank you, has asked to be brought forward, and that is item number L2 under the Council Information Package from the Minister of Housing regarding land development in Quesnel. I did mention the fact that Councillor Roodenburg will be giving a verbal report. There is no attachment. With regard to items G, items arising from previous special closed meetings, Rhea will read those motions into the record. And with regard to wait a minute, I got to find it. Oh, here, K3, it won't be Manager Reed that will be reporting, it will be Manager Turner. And that concludes the changes to the agenda. So if I could get a motion to adopt the agenda. Councillor Runge, Councillor Goulet, all in favor? Opposed? Carried? Thank you. Now a motion to adopt the minutes of the regular council meeting held August 27, 2024. Councillor Goulet, Councillor Vic. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. We have no presentations, no delegations, and now we will move to Councillor Roodenburg to make a verbal report, and that is regarding, one moment here, Lhtako Dene Nation Council Liaison meeting.
Thank you, Mayor. So thank you for allowing me to move up on the agenda. Just in case we get long-winded for the rest of the agenda, I want to be able to present this verbal report. The reason why it is verbal is there are no specific dates or items that have been discussed in regards to what's coming forward. I just wanted to let council know that we met with Lhtako Chief and Council. When I say we, that was Byron Johnson and Kari Bolton. It was an opportunity for Byron to say goodbye and for the Chief and Council to say goodbye to Byron and to introduce Kari Bolton as the acting city manager. So basically after we had a little bit of chat, talked about what next steps would look like for the Chief and Council and our council moving forward. They're prepared to meet with council to begin the process. And we knew that it was going to be a while until they were prepared, but they are now ready to take that first step forward. What they would like to see happen is an opportunity to meet with the elders at our first gathering to talk about residential school experiences. They want an opportunity to ask questions and for us to be able to ask questions of them. So when we talked about this, it looks like it could potentially be a meal, and they'd like to meet on what they'd like to call neutral grounds. We know that there are a few obstacles in play here, but the discussion was centered around CNC, seeing as there are some First Nations classes that are taught there and also a room. We thought that that might be a good opportunity, a good place for everyone to be able to meet and have this frank discussion around residential schools. So what will happen next is I will work with our city staff and with Lhtako to finalize a date and create not so much an agenda, but more decide on a direction of the discussion that will happen. We all know that this is just the first step. This is going to be one of many meetings moving forward, but it's a step, and we've been waiting for this opportunity to happen. So we know that one of the requests is for us to look at the MOU and what does that mean to council. We have it up on the wall there, but do we really know what that means for council moving forward? And also about things like UNDRIP and DRIPA, so that we truly understand the potential of leadership opportunities and partnerships with Lhtako. Also, as part of the discussion, the chief was quite blunt in saying that he would like to see council out to events. He'd like to see people participating in different things that Lhtako offers throughout the community. For example, this coming Monday, there is an event that's happening down at Lhtako Dene Park at 11 o'clock. It's going to be honoring the survivors of residential school and a water ceremony. There'll be traditional dancers, bannock, coffee, etc. They would like to see council there. And it's about showing up. You don't have to, you don't have to do stuff or whatever, but they want to see council show up. Part of the discussion evolved around the fact that it's a bigger picture vision around what's going on with First Nations in the community. And we know that there are lots of projects coming down the tube that will be beneficial to not only the community, but to council. And it would be important for us to be sitting at the table. We also talked about the fact that the discussion that council is going to have in regards to with the elders, et cetera, it's a much bigger vision that the chief and council has. They'd like to create a team from Lhtako and the city to offer learning opportunities, not just to council, but for the community. And so that they're going to look at what that would look like, because you can never have too much education out there in regards to who Lhtako is and what is their history in and around the community. I know there was lots of opportunities during UBCM to sit down and listen to First Nations discussions around racism and reconciliation. They had a community-to-community forum on the Monday. I had lots of opportunities to talk to various First Nations leaders throughout the province. And this ask of Chief LeBrun and their council is a very important first step. So my ask of you is to send Laura and myself blackout dates for the end of October and the first 2 weeks of November. We need to be sure that everybody is available. And so if you can send me your dates that you are not available, then we can work with Lhtako on what this might look like and what potential dates we can arrange. So because I'm a little late on logistics, that's why you don't have a report in front of you, but as the time gets closer, you'll have a report and probably an ask about what you would like to see happen at this meeting also. Remembering that it's just the first of many that will happen, but I think it's a big step and we've been waiting for this opportunity. So that's the end of my verbal report. If there are any questions, please ask.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Councillor Roodenburg. I would have appreciated that report in writing. You covered a lot of ground there. And so
I can send you the point forms, Mayor, if you'd like.
Okay, thank you. That would be helpful. Are there any questions at this point from council members? Comments? Okay, Councillor Roodenburg, we take that advice, and we look forward to hearing a date for that first giant step to be taken.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so now moving ahead with the agenda, I will now go back to item G, Items arising from previous special closed meetings. We have a couple of resolutions, and Rhea will read each of the resolutions into the record. Now, these resolutions have already been carried, I believe, unanimously by council. Yes, they were carried unanimously, so obviously there's no second vote there, but this will get those motions out of the closed meeting environment into the public domain. So, Rhea, if you could read those in, please.
From July 30th, 2024, Section 91C, Resolution IC 24-14-77, that Quesnel City Council approves interim appointment of Kari Bolton as acting city manager and corporate officer to commence from City Manager Byron Johnson's effective date of resignation, September 27th, until council awards the position. And the second one, from March 19th, 2024, Section 91E, Resolution IC 24-06-29, that subject to the owner of 101 Marsh Drive accepting the city's final offer of $425,000, Quesnel City Council approves purchase of the properties located at 101 Marsh Drive, Quesnel, BC, for up to $440,000, including taxes and legal fees, legally described as PID 006438270, Block 11, District Lot 704, Caribou District Plan 2620, Accept Plan CG 196-19329, and PID 006438342, Block 12, Plan CG 196, District Lots 386 and 704, Caribou District Plan 2620, Accept Plan 329.
Okay, thank you for that. That is now a matter of public record. We have no unfinished business. Now I will move to committee reports, and I will ask Councillor Runge to report on the September 5, 2024 Policy Bylaw Committee Chair's Summary.
Thank you very much, and thank you to Laura for making this report available to us as we were at the UBCM. Anyway, this report is to inform Council of what was discussed at the Policy and Bylaw Committee meeting on September 5th. So our summary is our donation policy, which will be coming to, recommendation will come fairly shortly, that we reviewed it, made changes to the donation policy, and we're bringing a new policy or change of the policy to you today. We also looked at our work plan. We had a discussion with regards to a list of policies. We have a number of policies that are dating out, aging out, that we need to look at. And so we're going to, we asked staff to start to bring batches to our committee meetings so that we can look at that and make some changes if needed. We also looked at our annual meeting schedule for 24-25 because because there had to be some proposed changes with regards to me being at some of these meetings because I had other commitments also. So staff will adjust the Policy and Bylaw Committee 2024-2025 annual meeting schedule and bring it back to the next Policy and Bylaw Committee meeting. So on the other thing that we talked about was correspondence to council, and this item was referred to the Policy and Bylaw Committee from the August 27th, 24 regular open council meeting regarding the public having an opportunity to provide announcements, events, ideas, and input to council. So staff are going to survey other communities concerning public participation and communication at a city council meeting and bring back the findings to an upcoming Policy and Bylaw Committee meeting for review and discussion. So we do have a recommendation, and I'm not sure if you read the recommendation. I think I'll go over it anyway. That the Policy and Bylaw Committee recommends to Council to update AC 12 acceptance of donation policies. And the 4 or 5 points that we have the council approval. All significant potential donations must be reported to the City Council by the Chief Administrative Officer for approval prior to acceptance. Donations necessitate ongoing operation or maintenance expenditures will also require council approval before they accepted. And with regards to purpose and public interest, donations must support the city's mandate, programs, services, and activities, and must be deemed by the city to be in the public interest. Number 3 was capacity and costs. Donations will only be accepted if the city, at its sole discretion, has the capacity to manage the initial and ongoing costs and obligations associated with the donation. and acceptance rights. The city, of course, reserves the right to accept or decline any donation at its sole discretion. And with regards to tax receipts for donations, tax receipts will be issued in accordance with all of the regulations established by the Canadian Revenue Agency. Donors are responsible for covering the cost of any required appraisals unless otherwise determined by the city, and contributions for services including time, skill, or efforts are not considered property and therefore do not qualify for the CRA official donation receipt. And I guess I have a motion that we approve.
So you're moving that, Councillor Runge. I'm looking for a seconder. Councillor Vic, any discussion? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Runge. And now I will go to Councillor Vic to report on the September 11, 2024 Financial Sustainability and Audit Committee Chair's Summary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this report pertains to the FSAC meeting that was on September the 11th. So believe it or not, we're headed into another budget cycle. It feels like we just ended the last one, but here we go again. So Budget 2025 is upon us, and the committee has discussed the timeline for Budget 2025. And the first step in that process is to always review the budget principles policy. Staff have reviewed the language pertaining to business taxation, and they'll bring back to the committee a bit of a tidy up on that. Staff will also check in with council on any areas of the budget where they want to have a deeper discussion. And to elaborate a little more on that, furthermore, if council, if we want to broaden the conversation to not only talk about digging into the budget itself, but fundamentally our service structure, and if there's services in the community that we'd like to examine in the context of our budget. So I'm asking my colleagues if you have any comments or any contribution before we dig into the budget in earnest, please let Kari know. She can provide all the background you need on any departmental issues or questions and anything to do with our services. Also, of note is one area for discussion that the committee would like advanced is a strategic review of our bylaw services in the context of finance, obviously, but also about bylaw services in general in the community. The first step of the budget will see staff prepare budget estimates for each department in the fall, and those will be coming to our committee in November. We turned our attention to tax rate trends. We reviewed the information that's provided by the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. This is given to us each year. Residential taxation on a representative house remains lower than the average for the province, and business taxes are higher when ranked by the tax rate, but there are other factors that affect business taxation, including lower commercial assessments. We next looked at the per diems that are granted to staff and council when they travel. The last time I'll contextualize this by saying it hasn't been reviewed since 2009, so please bear that in mind. The committee reviewed the per diem rates currently in the policy as compared to neighboring communities, the province, and the CRA rates. As said, the last time it was modified was 2009. Lots has happened since 2009. It is anticipated that this change will only affect the budget by a few $1,000s per year at its maximum, as there's not a tremendous amount of travel by staff or council, maximum a couple of conferences per year. Also, conferences and courses often provide food embedded in the fees that council pays to attend these conferences, so that would negate any requirement for a per diem. It is recommended that the current daily per diem rate of $65 should rise to $86. We also looked at the travel policy as a whole. There are a few subtle changes. In addition to the per diem rates, including we would also ask that we include the removal of reimbursement for business telephone calls, which I'm not sure the last time a city councillor or a staff member has claimed for a business telephone call, probably the 80s. So I think it's high time we scratch that out of there. And local events. So I guess in the past, long ago, if council attended a local event, there might be some reimbursement. Those we're suggesting, though, that be eliminated. And there's a recommendation to follow at the end of my report on that. So in terms of the Finance Department's update, the tax sale is coming up on October 7th. As of the committee meeting, which was September 11th, there were 29 properties on the delinquent list. Is that number still pretty accurate, Director Bolton?
I think as of yesterday, we're at 15.
Okay.
So we're working our hardest to get it down.
Things are getting better. Perfect. Staff is working hard to contact the property owners, as Director Bolton just said, and that'll be reducing the amount going to tax sale, which, as the committee is learning, is becoming or could become quite cumbersome in the future if the provincial government alters the rigor required to contact property owners. I don't have all the details on that potential change in policy, but it is not coming into effect this year. But if there are changes that will meaningfully affect the city, we'll report out on that. In terms of spending issues, one area that will be over budget this year is our line painting. And we're looking at an overage of $30,000 this year. And I don't have a lot of details on the overage, but inflationary pressures, I'm not sure if Director Bolton can offer any more insight on that, but
No, you've hit the nail on the head. It really was inflation. Just the cost of paint is tremendously higher than it has been before.
well, thank you. In terms of the capital update for 2024, staff provided a status summary of the projects as of June 30th. Discussion regarding the boat launch was brought up, also including a discussion of the speed limits in the area, which I concede has not much to do with finance, but in terms of the boat launch conversation, there's a lot of feedback in the community what decrepit shape the boat launch itself is in. We got a beautiful new dock there, or a beautiful new fishing pier, I guess is the right term, but the other infrastructure at that area is sorely lacking. And as part of that conversation, we got into the safety of using the boat launch, which is where the speed limits came up. So there may be some more conversation on that in the future. We also talked about the master fee kickoff. Staff have begun the process of reviewing the fees for January 1st. Reports will be coming forward, including comparisons to other communities in areas such as building permits and development fees. And the last thing we covered was the meeting schedule for 2024-2025. I believe the dates were all good and no changes required. And so we have a couple recommendations. The first is the council travel policy, which there was a couple of tweaks, including the per diems. I would move that recommendation that Finance, Sustainability, and Audit Committee recommends to council the amendments to the travel and training policy, CF5, including increasing the travel per diems for food. I would move that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Vic, for that motion. A seconder, Councillor Elliott. Any discussion? Councillor Runge.
Thank you. So I told Mitch that I'd be talking about this anyway, but let's start on page 14 of 61. I think we want to change that 65 to 85.
To 86.
86.
Yeah.
Bad math, sorry.
Correct. Yes. The one
All
with
right,
that.
and originally I was, shocked, but then I started to do some research with regards to different places and the federal government and things like that. And so the federal government's per diem, I think, is about a 111 or 113 per day, and other ones are many other countries are much, much higher. So then I had to step back because my original thing was, you got to be kidding me, that's way too much of an increase. So I just, I wanted to bring that up because I did check this out because you know me, I don't like the cost to go up too much, but I think having seen what costs of all the foods are when you're going to other communities and stuff like that, this is only scratching the surface of your meal.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to go with this first request. So is any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, Councillor Vic, number 2.
Second recommendation is regarding the meeting schedule. I'll move that.
And so you're moving that, and Councillor Elliott, you're seconding. Okay, any further discussion? All in favor? Oh, Councillor Runge.
Yeah, I think this is where the discussion might have to be. Because I really believe that we need a strategic plan, a strategic review on some of these things. You talked about the bylaw services. I think there should be discussion. Does that fit into this meeting schedule? Because I see the meeting schedule quickly filling up, and all of a sudden we're in October, November. Do we put that separate to this meeting schedule?
Some of those will be separate. It really depends on what topic council brings forward, and we might do them as special council meetings instead of FSAC meetings, just so that everyone's there and can input on them. So depending on what input we get from council on what budget issues we want to dig on, we will look at the schedule and see where we can fit things and whether that works.
So I guess my question is then, do we just contact you with regards to putting things on? Or, I really believe as council, we can talk about it right here. If you don't want a strategic plan, then we don't have one, because my email's not going to make any kind of difference. I think it's important that we have a little bit of a deeper dive that we've been trying to have since May.
So are we talking strategic plan or are we talking budget?
Well, I guess the strategic plan will kick into budget stuff afterwards, so
so I would
closely
suggest
tied, so I just don't know how to put that in so that we actually
I would
have that
suggest that we
discussion.
do a strategic planning session, but that would be incumbent on first deciding who your new city manager is, because it would be important for them to be there.
Yeah, and I think upcoming strategic planning is in the mill. I don't know that a firm date has been set, but you're looking for some dates when council is available for a strategic planning session, as we do each year.
Yeah,
Am I
and
right?
prior to our budget finalization, because those things go so closely together.
Okay, so duly moved and seconded. Did I get a seconder? Thank you. Oh, Councillor Elliott, you seconded, so any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Vic.
Mr. Mayor, could I just
Go ahead.
speak to
I'm
the
sorry.
report briefly?
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So I thank Councillor Vic for the comments on everything and the hard work on this, but just a little bit of clarity on the boat launch. We did have a lot of work done this year, and so I think it's important just to recognize the volunteers that stepped up to make that better. Are there changes that should take place? Yes, absolutely, because it appears that the last 2 pads at the launch, at the cement pads, there's been some movement there, so when they're trying to pull their boats out, especially if they're bigger boats, they run into some challenges. So, we're getting there, and we're looking at, I think we've already applied for the environmental assessment to be able to get in there again and legally get into the water, and we're hoping to get that going in the spring. So just a little bit of clarity.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Elliott. Is there anything further on item I2? Okay, seeing none, then we will move to item J1. August 16, 2024, Caribou Regional District Board highlights. Councillor Roodenburg to report.
Excellent, thank you. 5 minutes to spare, you guys all rock. So the board highlights are before you. I just wanted to showcase a few comments that were in the highlights. One in particular is in regards to interior health and their staffing and recruitment efforts, and you'll see that they're pulling all the stops out to try and get new recruits to the Caribou Memorial Hospital in Williams Lake. Now, having said that, you'll notice that they say they currently have a 60% vacancy rate for physicians and registered nurse positions in their emergency department. And so they end up relying on casual staff and other staff to take on extra shifts. Our hospital hasn't experienced this, but this is one of the many reasons why you hear Memorial Hospital emergency being closed and why they're being diverted to communities like Quesnel for services. So just something to note. Another major discussion we had was in regards to the emergency operations update that happened after the slide, the Chilcotin River landslide. It was a very robust discussion, and from staff, they noted that there are some gaps in their emergency management legislation. things like there are inadequate tools to protect Indigenous cultural and heritage sites after an emergency activation. And so you put that emergency on, but there's nothing to protect some of the sites that are quite sensitive. The board has sent a letter to the Minister of Emergency Management saying that they're quite, they were confused about how communication was supposed to go out. They know that there's some regulatory uncertainty on how local authorities, indigenous governments, and the province are supposed to work together. And so there's a letter that has been sent to that ministry prior to the writ being dropped about how they can clarify and rectify that situation, because there was a lot of they would call the CRD for information on the emergency. They were told to call the province. The province says no, call the CRD. And so there was this confusion ongoing. For note, for anybody who's on the Red Bluff sewer system, that they are replacing a grit separator. There's no increase in this utility service fees as this is coming out of capital reserves. You'll also note that there's been 2 funding requests for Northern Health for GR Baker to upgrade some of their IT network and data storage. So that's it in a nutshell. Any questions?
Councillor Elliott, go ahead.
Thank you, and thanks for the report, Councillor Roodenburg. And not so much a question.
Sorry, Councillor Elliott, you'll just have to speak up a little bit louder. Sorry.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Sure, I'll pretend I can.
Fake it till you make it. I just wanted to comment on the staffing issues, and obviously you're aware that there are staffing issues at our hospital as well. There are challenges, but you mentioned in the report here, or it's written in the report, that there are signing bonuses and things. The difference is that we're on Northern Health, that's Interior Health, but I want everyone to know that
Yes.
doctor attraction and retention, or healthcare, is happening here as well, and we do have signing bonuses and also free accommodations available. So we are working on it, but there's still a lot of work to do. But thanks for the report.
And I appreciate the clarity there. I was more around just kind of augmenting the fact that when their emergency department closes, they are sent to Kamloops, Kelowna, Quesnel, and it does put another additional strain on our already strained system. But thank you for that. And yes, we have an amazing program here trying to attract our doctors and healthcare professionals. And, they just keep working at it. So yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Is there anything more on this item with the Councillor Roodenburg's report on the CRD? Okay, then we will move ahead to city staff reports. And item K1 is Admin Report 99/24 UBCM Community Emergency Preparedness Fund Disaster Risk Reduction Climate Adaptation Risk and Resilience Assessment. That sounds like the report. I've already given the report. Coordinator Coppin to report.
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of this report is to gain Council's approval to apply for the Union of BC Municipalities grant under the Disaster Risk Reduction Climate Adaptation funding stream. Risk and resilience assessments are eligible for funding through the UBCM Disaster Risk Reduction Climate Adaptation Fund. Completion of a updated hazard resilience and vulnerability assessment and a risk and resilience assessment positions the city to identify risks and focus on how the city and community are equipped to respond to and recover from those risks. This grant would allow for the necessary risk assessments to optimize the city's emergency planning and management. The recommendation is that Quesnel City Council support the application to the Union of BC Municipalities for $100,000 under the Risk Reduction Climate Adaptation Fund.
Okay, thank you for that. And there's a little bit more in that report that Council, I'm sure, has reviewed. So the recommendation is before you, Council. Is there a motion that we can entertain? Councillor Brunge, Councillor Vic, moving and seconding. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, thank you for that. Now we move to item K2, Admin Report 98/24, Photo Mural Project. Director Norburn to report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to advise council of a project to install photo murals in downtown Quesnel and seek council's approval for a proposed agreement between the city and various property owners of buildings where photo murals would be installed. The objective of the project is to install 4 to 6 archival photographs enlarged to near life size in public spaces, to enliven those spaces, give prominence to underrepresented people, and to create interest in the heritage of the city. It's anticipated that most or possibly all of these murals will be installed on privately owned buildings. Proposed agreement is attached, which would commit the city to paying the cost for the creation, installation, and the maintenance of the photo murals on private property. The city's banner policy is banner policy, but it's the city's mural policy, stipulates that murals installed by the city on city-owned property will be maintained by the city, but that murals on private property are the responsibility of the property owners. Doesn't really address this situation, which is that the city is initiating a project and planning to install a number of photo murals on private property. The creation and installation of the photo murals is fully funded through a grant from Heritage BC and a small contribution from the Museum Reserve, which was derived from a bequest in memory of Lily Hoy Price. Ongoing maintenance costs for the photo murals are expected to be minimal. The murals will be on a durable material with a UV and anti-graffiti coating, which should withstand the lifespan of the project. However, there may be minor costs if they're vandalized and need to be scrubbed clean, or for minor repairs to fill screw holes when the panels are removed at the end of their lifespan. The recommendation is that council authorizes the museum and heritage manager to sign photo mural installation agreements with 4 to 6 property owners, with the number and costs of the project not to exceed the funding approved by the 150 time immemorial grant and an allocation from the Museum Reserve, already included in the budget.
Okay, thank you for that. Are you moving, Councillor Elliott?
Yeah, with a question.
Go ahead with your question. Hang on. Before I do that, I'll look for a seconder. Councillor Vick is seconding. Okay, go ahead with your question.
Thank you. Thanks for the report. I'm all for murals, and yeah, I think we should try and have them on every building. But I'm just curious, when we move forward with this, will the pictures and the locations of the buildings be brought to council before it's finalized?
That wasn't necessarily our intention. We were mostly just seeking council's approval to enter into those agreements. But the photo murals, similar to the ones on the exterior of the museum building, will come from the archive that we have at the museum, primarily from the CS Wing and the C.D. Hoy collection. And I don't know if council wanted to have input on the specific photographs that are used. The museum manager is working with each of the property owners to select a suitable photograph that meets the criteria of the grant program. I mean, it could be, but like you say, the deadline for the project is the end of the calendar year. Yep. I guess that's at the discretion of council.
Yeah, I just would like to be informed of what businesses they're going to be on. I'm not, suggesting that I'm going to say no to anything, but just out of curiosity, before they go up, I think it would be neat if council was aware.
Certainly, in terms of awareness, that's easy. We can make sure that council is emailed. Like I say, I'm reluctant to mention names now because we're still negotiating with each of those private property owners, and we aren't completely sure exactly, how many there will be. It'll depend a little bit on how much the costs are to produce and install them. So our goal is to get at least 4 and possibly as many as 6 up.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And I'm glad that it's fully funded too with grants. So thanks again.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Runge.
I think it's a wonderful idea also. My question is with regards to maintenance costs as always. So as these images go up, is there something that's going to protect like the building so that there's no rot behind it, so that 10 years from now the city isn't going to be having a major cost for, like I look at some of these murals when they come down, there's if it's just painting, that's easy. But if there's any kind of rot on the building, then it gets way, way, way more expensive. And I just want to make sure that as we set them up, that we're thinking about that, and we're thinking, anything that we can do to, like if there's a rain mitigation so the rain misses it. And then the other thing, you always talk about minor costs. Should we have an area, I hope it doesn't happen, but if we ever had an area that had too much vandalism, would we then just remove the painting from that location and put it possibly somewhere else?
We certainly could, and the way that we've worded the agreement is that the city has the discretion to remove the mural at any time with, providing notice to the owner. So, yeah, we can definitely, if a location is not working for any reason, we can choose to relocate that mural somewhere else.
Okay, thank you for that. Any further comment? I have one comment, and that is that the Burt's Moose project, and I have spoken about this before, has prompted me to think about somehow a little bit better formalizing our public art presence, and I'm thinking particularly through the city website. There's a lot of public art that's already in existence in the community, and I'm thinking of the murals and now these photo walls, sculptures, the tiny people fire hydrants, monuments, the recent and ongoing improvements to Lhtako Dene Park, and also some interpretive signage. So I'll be bringing that proposal forward to either the upcoming strategic planning meeting or possibly a future council meeting. Okay, so we do have a recommendation. Have we moved and seconded that? So we're ready to rock and roll on that. So all in favor, or no? Councillor Vic, you're voting in favor. Anybody opposed? Thank you. We're duly carried. Thank you. The next report is Admin Report 9524, Housing Accelerator Fund Application, and Manager Turner is going to report on this one.
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of this report is to gain Council's approval for the Housing Accelerator Plan submitted for the Canada Mortgage Housing Corporation, CMHC, the Housing Accelerator Fund, further referred to as HAF in this report. The City of Quesnel previously applied to HAF in 2023, but did not receive that funding. The $4 billion fund received 544 applications and was awarded to 177 communities. A second intake has now been opened, and it will have a $400 million available. The City of Quesnel may apply for up to $3,712 through HAF. The funding amount is calculated based on the city's own predictions of projected development without HAF and an additional projection with development with HAF, so the projects identified under the HAF project. The funding may be used to directly implement items in the action plan or to implement additional initiatives or capital projects that would encourage housing development. This could include recommendations from the Infrastructure Master Plan, which is currently underway. I'm going to just skip over the action plan right now, and I'm just going to read a couple of more comments from the report, just to give you an idea about what's going to happen with these items. All initiatives will go through the normal process of being approved by council. Approval of this action plan simply indicates the intent to go through the process with each initiative submitted with the HAF application. Cost of waiving building permit fees, grant programs, and the cost related to these initiatives will be covered by the fund. Total cost is anticipated to be $1,010,000. Surplus HAF dollars will not be required for implementing initiatives and may be used for road improvements, sewer upgrades, or development of green infrastructure, drainage and new developments, or other projects upcoming from the Infrastructure Master Plan. This will include encourage housing development. Quesnel's housing needs assessments project a need for an additional 407 units between 2021 and 2026. And just to determine where we got that number from, that number is the number that is required from the province of BC. It's a calculated number that the province mandated for each community to do. So that's going to be in the new housing needs assessment that you council will see upcoming. The new workforce to be recruited to the community is also considered in this HAF project. I'll get into the initiatives now. The initiatives, and I'm not going to go through them like item by item, but I'll just give you the rough, the overall initiatives. The first initiative will be about encouraging accessory dwelling units. As you know, we've done a ton to do this already. This is going to build on the work we've already done and add additional incentives and really try and make that program leap off. The second will be multi-unit housing initiatives. Again, we've done some base work, but again, this is going to be basically to get this initiative as well, just that extra boost to really try and finalize getting some of those developments happening at a more accelerated rate within the community. We'll be modernizing the zoning bylaw and removing barriers to development. We have to review the zoning bylaw anyway. This is on our agenda coming up for 2025, and this will put additional initiatives, incentives, and resources into making sure some of those policy changes are really proactive for housing development. Public land acquisition and a disposition action plan. This is something that we've been wanting to work on for quite some time. Council knows we're always talking about what lands do we have, how can we encourage housing with lands that we do have. We will be looking at a plan to make sure that not only current lands that we have and or senior governments, et cetera, are looked at within the community to determine new lands for housing development, but also looking at how we can acquire new lands for developments in the future. And e-permitting and streamlining development. Again, this is an initiative that most communities are moving to. We believe we're going to be needing to move to as well, and we believe will also help with the whole process in terms of development and processing development applications. So those are the initiatives. I want to point you to a package that's at the end of the report. It's the Housing Accelerator Plan. It's a brochure that we also put through to the funder, and we think is going to be a real a key in terms of really marketing and communicating what our initiatives are to the funder. And we also think it's an amazing document, and I really want to give my hats off to Amy and Jennifer Reed, who worked and did tons of work on this to make this look so beautiful and really communicate well these initiatives. And I think it's just an amazing document, and I'm very happy and excited that we have this to put on to all of, we will be utilizing this to market out to the development community as well. Okay. And the recommendation I'll just get to, sorry, I'll read it out for your convenience. The recommendation is that the City Council supports the submission of an application to the Housing Accelerator Fund with an action plan that would use awarded funds for incentivizing accessory dwelling units, further incentivizing multi-unit housing, updating the zoning bylaw, and reviewing parking requirements to streamline residential development, creating a public land acquisition disposition action plan, and implementing e-permitting and updating development application procedures bylaw.
Okay, thank you for the recommendation. Councillor Elliott, you are moving. Councillor Goulet, you are seconding. Or do we? Oh, Councillor Elliott.
Yes. First of all, to Director Turner, thank you so much for all your hard work on this file. And to council too, all the incentives that we've put in place over the years, having just come back from UBCM and having multiple conversations about housing. Not every community has this ongoing. So, and there were a lot of conversations about the challenges and getting developers to the north and how we can build on our partnerships with different cities in the north to really try and move together, because we're all in the same boat. And agreed 100%. This document here that was put out by Economic Development here is exceptional. So if you take the time to take a peek at it, so thanks to everybody on the hard work, and we'll just keep chugging along.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Elliott. Councillor Vic.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'll ditto to Councillor Elliott's thanks. What a professional plan, and based on that alone, I think we're a shoe-in. But I have a couple questions. The intake for 400 million is when might the community hear back on approval or not?
These have just gone on, and given the past, it was over 6 months, but did they give any indication of when they were going to be looking at this one? Because it's quite a bit smaller of an application process here.
They've said by the end of the year, but they said that last time, and it went on significantly longer. So
Okay.
we will see.
Yeah, it's just, there's so many, especially if we're looking at the action plan, there's so many fundamentals there that obviously we were chomping at the bit to advance.
A very good point here is we do not have to wait, and there's a number of these initiatives that we are going to be acting on anyway.
Fantastic.
It does not matter that we will be moving ahead.
I was hoping you'd say that. Second question is, I guess it pertains to FSAC as well, and it may not be dependent on this grant, on this funding, but it's interesting in terms of developing a new reserve for the sale of city lands. I believe currently those funds reside with the landfill extra reserve, I guess. We don't have a separate reserve for...
No, we do. The city has a land sales reserve where all funds from sale of land have to go to,
Okay.
are required by the community charter to go to that reserve.
So that's already good to go then. And I guess the last comment, something regarding some of our reflections from UBCM. I'm not sure it can be embedded in here or even advanced, but one thing that we heard from developers at UBCM is, although all these steps are critically important to helping our housing situation, we're hearing, or we heard, that it's sometimes some of the logjam or the issues are pertaining to code and the very high escalation and the rapid succession of code changes. I know that's a bit out of the scope of this, but can we assist with that?
Thank you, and I think that's where you're seeing the e-permitting. So the e-permitting is a process that's supposed to be tackling that. That is something even that's being led by the province, but there's things going on with the province. We need to sort of kind of come in line with them. They need to advance quicker on their process with standardizing the e-permitting, but e-permitting is intended to help with that. So the whole process of e-permitting is that basically the developer will put it into a computer. The computer matrix is going to do a lot of that code analysis much quicker than building inspectors on their own, and also be a lot more, provide developers with a lot more consistency, or builders, I should say.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question regarding the e-permitting. I'm presuming that we would be following a prescribed template for e-permitting, that we wouldn't be inventing the wheel on our own.
Correct, Mayor, and that's where things are just a little bit hiccupy right now, because the province started going and leading that, and we're kind of trying to follow how far they're getting, but there is also other e-permitting programs already out there, so we'll be balancing where we're going with that, with the province, but definitely we'll be utilizing a standardized system.
Okay, thank you for that. We are duly moved and seconded, so I will look now. Is there any further comment or question? Hearing none, then, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Now we go to Admin Report 97/24, Development Permit, Tatchell Road, Director Turner to report.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, this is just to review some requested variances and a sensitive ecosystem development permit for a proposed accessory building, shop, and creek crossing at 196 Tatchell Road. The applicant is proposing to build a 154.96 meter square shop for storage. Variances will be required for shop height and maximum gross floor area of the accessory building. The proposed shop is not located within the sensitive ecosystem development permit area. However, existing access to the shop will be through the area. The applicant did obtain a works within a stream permit from the Ministry of Water, Land, and Stream Resources for access last year, and the access has already been constructed. We do, reviewing and discussing with the Ministry of Environment, feel that process did satisfy the ministry or the sensitive ecosystem area requirements. the DP. So really, we're really talking about the variances here, about approving the DP for approval. The variances the applicant is requesting to allow for an accessory building of 5.64 meters squared, 4.5 meters is the allowable height currently. The applicant is requesting a variance to allow for a maximum gross floor area of 1,618 meters squared from 154.96 meters squared. The lot is a sufficiently large lot of 4,042 meters squared. The building will not be constructed within this ecosystem area, again, but it's crossing it, so we're not, the staff feel that those measures have been met. The recommendation is that council approve DP 2024-76 for the construction of an accessory building on Lot A, District Lot 5442, Caribou District Plan BCP 26286, and that council vary Section 12.3.6 of the City of Quesnel zoning bylaw 1880 to increase the maximum accessory building height to 4.64 meters, and that council vary Section 12.3.8B of the City of Quesnel bylaw number 1880, maximum gross floor area of accessory building on lots equal to or greater than 16 meters squared to 159 meters squared.
Okay, thank you for that. Just a note that you said to a maximum height of 4.64. It's 5.64, isn't it?
Thank you. It's 5.64.
Thank you. Okay, so do we have any? Okay, Councillor Runge, are you moving? And Councillor Elliott, you're seconding. Do we have any discussion? Yeah, Councillor Elliott, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm always interested when we're looking at streams and things like that. But seeing that they got the permit put off by the Ministry of Water, Land and Resources, I have no issue. This one just looks kind of interesting because when you look at the sensitive area, the house is built right in the middle of it. So, I mean, it's just...
That was likely done prior to the sensitive area being established.
Oh, thanks for that. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Thank you.
Okay, so we've got it moved and seconded. Do we have any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. At this point, I'm just going to exercise my privilege of the chair just to make a comment with respect to the housing accelerator. I had a note here to say that with the professional excellence of the presentation of that housing accelerator application and all that goes with it, how can they say no? So thank you for that. Now we move to, one moment please. I'm looking for my my next page of the agenda. And that concludes, oh, wait, no, it doesn't conclude. We're going to go now to admin report 100/24 Sprout Kitchen Operating Agreement Manager Read to Report.
Thank you. The purpose of this report is to receive council's approval to move forward with a new 3-year operating agreement with Sprout Kitchen Society for the operation of Sprout Kitchen Food Hub and Small Business Incubator.
I don't know what that was.
Okay, I'll keep going. The previous operating agreement for Sprout Kitchen expired in 2023. We delayed entering into a new agreement while we were going through the process of purchasing the building. The new agreement is similar to the previous agreement with the following additions or changes. No base rent required for the term of the 3-year agreement, but Sprout Kitchen is responsible for all other operating costs, including other costs that are typically connected to a lease, such as utilities, proportionate amount of the insurance and hydro costs, snow clearing, garbage, and natural gas. Sprout Kitchen Society is expected to operate the refrigerated distribution service, which was not included in the original agreement. We didn't have the funding for it at that time. And Sprout Kitchen Society is expected to provide quarterly budget updates to the city. This was previously required as part of the provincial reporting, which we don't have at this time, but just as we're giving no base rent, asking them to still continue to provide quarterly budget updates. So the recommendation is that council enter into the attached agreement with Sprout Kitchen Society for the operation of the food hub, and that the mayor and city manager be authorized to execute such documentation as required to complete the agreement.
Okay, thank you for that. Could we get a mover and a seconder for the recommendation, and then we'll enter into any questions, discussion, et cetera? Okay, Councillor Elliott is moving, Councillor Vic is seconding. Is there any discussion or question? Councillor Runge.
I promise I'll have some discussion on this, right? Anyway, so this is a positive thing, but I want the community to understand that we actually, as a council, are subsidizing food security in this community with the rent. So that actually it's a real positive. I think it needs to be done. But it doesn't show anywhere in this. So I just wanted to make a little point of that. And then my second point, though, was on page 49 of 61 with supportive funding, the second paragraph. So my question is I have no problem with regards to capital improvements and equipment. I think that's wonderful if we have extra money. How will we decide, though, when to support operations? Like, I don't mind if they happen to be short 1 month, I have no problem with that, but I would actually like to see them, if there's good times later, to pay back that amount so that we actually use it for capital improvements. I don't want that to be a crutch that they count on until that money's gone, that additional money's gone. So I just how would we decide when that happens? Or would it be based on their quarterlies?
So they've built that operational support into their budget up until this point. So we had some funding previously through Red Cross that supported wages, and that was built into their budget up until, I believe, April of this year. That's when we had to spend the funding by that time. And they had also built some additional supports drawing off of that Ministry of Agriculture and Food funding through to the end of the year, but they haven't needed to draw on it. So they're only asking for it when they need it, and generally to support wages. We want to make sure that their staff are being paid.
Okay, you're good on that?
Yeah, just
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So are we moved and seconded? So now, seeing that there's no other discussion or comment, I'll now call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you for that. And now we will go to Admin Report 101/24 CMHA Lease. Manager Reid to report.
Thanks. The purpose of this report is to gain Council's approval to move forward with a lease agreement for 101 Marsh Drive with the Canadian Mental Health Association, or CMHA, for the operation of Nourish Food Bank. Nourish Food Bank has been operating from 101 Marsh Drive since June 2023. CMHA had a 1-year lease term with the former building owner and has been operating on a month-to-month basis while the sale of the building was pending. The lease agreement is similar to the terms CMHA had with the previous building owner for use of the space. CMHA and the city are working together to access funding to renovate the vacant space in the rear of the building for shared use. The term of this lease is only 15 months with the intent of entering into a new agreement that takes into account CMHA's contributions to the renovation and their access to the rear space once all funding is in place and the renovations are complete. So the recommendation is that Quesnel City Council enter into the attached 15-month lease agreement with CMHA for the use of approximately 1,500 square feet at 101 Marsh Drive, and that the mayor and corporate administrator be authorized to execute such documentation as required to complete the agreement.
I'll have a comment, Mr. Mayor, if you'll allow me. Just for the community's sake and understanding, the two reports that we just had have to do with the same property we now own as a city. And certainly, as Councillor Runge articulated, it's our commitment to enhancing food security in the community, which is hugely important. But also, there are other benefits that these two organizations, Nourish and our food hub, there are huge opportunities in the future for collaboration, since both organizations have to do with food. food. So I think it's a great for the community, helps those that need help in terms of their food security, and also as an incubator for small business, it's fantastic for that. And the fact that now both these organizations have some certainty over the rent costs and whatnot, I think it's excellent for our community moving forward for both these organizations and how it serves the community writ large.
Thank you for that, Councillor Vic, and I echo those comments. This is, media picked this up. This is a good news story. So we're duly moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion before I call the question? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Council. Okay. The last item that we have under city staff reports is Admin Report 9624, 2025 Council Meeting Schedule, Deputy Corporate Administrator Hartley to report.
I'll just skip straight to the recommendation that council approves the 2025 annual regular council meeting schedule as attached to the September 24th, 2024 council meeting agenda.
Well, that was nice. That was one of the shortest reports that we've received tonight. Thank you for that, Ria. Okay, Councillor Runge, are you moving? Councillor Vic is seconding for the 2025 schedule, council meetings. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, so that concludes city staff reports. Now, we do have council information package, and Councillor Elliott has requested that number 2, a letter from the Minister of Housing, come to the floor. So Councillor Elliott, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, council had recently put off a letter to the Minister of Housing, Ravi Calhoun, just to try and get some clarity on a couple of pieces of land in the city, one being the Caribou Field. So as everyone, I hope, is aware, the long-term care facility is moving forward. So that's a great thing. But also there's questions around the old QJS lands, which are extremely important to the city, and trying to get housing and other initiatives going there. And it clearly states in this letter that we should contact the Quesnel Board of Education because they're in control of the land. So I think there's a little bit of confusion there because it could be with the Ministry of Forests too. So I'm suggesting that maybe council puts off a letter to Board of Education here and the Ministry of Forests to try and get some clarity so we know exactly who's in control of lands and we have the possibility of actually moving forward on this in the future. So I'd make that recommendation. If I could get a seconder, it'd be appreciated.
It looks like you've got a seconder in Councillor Runge. And is there any discussion? This is a no-brainer. So all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you for that, Councillor, and thank you for that, Council. So that concludes council information package. I see that we have no bylaws up for adoption or consideration on this agenda. We have no new business. Changes to upcoming meeting schedule, there are none. Changes to committee appointments, there are none. Announcements and events, and I do have one sort of late item, but I will go to the rest of council to see if there are any announcements or events at this point. Councillor Goulet.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And of course, it was mentioned by Councillor Roodenburg earlier. September 30th is National Truth and Reconciliation Day. There's an event at the Lhtako Dene Park. There's also a short event at the Quesnel Telecom Society. So if you're out in the community, please take in those events. They are very powerful. They're learning experiences for all of us when it comes to the truth and reconciliation and residential schools. So I just plan to be part of those events. So September 30th, an important day for Indigenous people on National Truth and Reconciliation. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Goulet. Anyone else? Oh, Councillor Elliott.
Yes, thank you very much. Recently, council was at UBCM, so lots of positive meetings and that. But I had the misfortune of having to stay in Vancouver for a couple of extra days because all flights were canceled from Vancouver to Quesnel through CMA. So one of my friends was trying to get out of Vancouver on, and just bear with me, I'll get to it. On Thursday, flights canceled. Friday canceled, no flights Saturday, so I got out on Sunday. So I'm hoping that in the near future, and this is just a heads up to council, that we can try and address this and try and get some clarity. Apparently there's not enough pilots, but with the amount of money that they spent to keep us down there in hotels and accommodate and travel through with taxis and stuff, they could have bought a plane. I mean, it was $500 a night just for, anyway, I can go on, but that was fun. UBCM was good. And then we have someone departing from staff. Is that where you were going to go?
Exactly.
Okay, I'll leave it at that.
And thank you, Councillor Elliott, for your comments about flight cancellations. I just had some bad experiences with Air Canada, and after traveling 20,000 kilometers, I experienced some pretty horrendous flight cancellations as well. So it's not just CMA, but it's pretty general all over. But certainly the system is broken and it needs to be repaired. At this point, after 18 years with us, City Manager Byron will be moving south to, I think, Clearwater. So Byron, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just asked for this opportunity just to say some final words. First off, I want to say thank you to RJ for last meeting where you gave me thanks. I do like to double dip, so I'll go through it this time. So I just want to say thanks for all the great years, and that's the staff, council, and all the people who make a difference in the community. And when you reach a milestone like this, you think back a little bit on some of the really great projects. And with council's indulgence, I would just like to take a couple of minutes and just talk about what were the highlights for me in my career at the city. I guess the number one highlight for me was the relationship that was built with the Lhtako First Nation. I think this is a tremendously important file, and I'm encouraged that the city is looking at how do we move forward again. But over my term here, first off, it started with the city councilors getting to know the Lhtako First Nation. There was meetings, getting to know some of the elders. The second step was more symbolic. There was an MOU signed, which is on the wall. Development of the Lhtako Dene Park, which includes lots of the historical type references at the park. And then finally, our last project was a true partnership, the Lhtako Quesnel Winter Games. An awesome partnership and a true partnership where both partners contributed and made that project happen. So that was a real highlight for me. I think it's a really important thing for the city. Number two project for me was the Public Works facility. And this is an interesting project because it was almost like an impossible dream. This had been on the books for over a decade when I first joined the city, and we all talked about, Public Works and how tough it was, and the mechanics were working off cardboard on the parking lot. So it was an impossible dream. And it was a long-term development. Actually, Mayor Sjostrom, her mandate, we bought the property. We said, we're going to build it up there. We're going to have a whole new site. We started the ball rolling, and it was a slow roll. That started with Mayor Sjostrom, went through 2 terms of Mayor Simpson, and ended with this council before that was done. So a huge achievement. Done now. We've got a great building that will serve this community for a long time. The third accomplishment I like best was another partnership arrangement, and that's the West Fraser Center. And similarly, it seemed like such a huge project that it was hard to know how we could figure that out. And it went through a few iterations between the multi-center and then got kind of narrowed down to where that project should have been. So that was a really great achievement. West Quesnel land stability. While we certainly can't beat Mother Nature, I would say we tamed her a little bit. And so that's a big achievement. It's, I think there was significant progress on that for those residents where the land movement has been slowed down. Having said that, it's hard to know in any given year what the impact will still be. Tanya mentioned housing projects. The city has really done well with housing projects. Supportive housing, seniors housing, housing for vulnerable populations. We worked well with the province, but council certainly did its part with the housing incentives bylaw. We put properties on, made them available for housing, and done our part with that. And it's really made a huge difference in the community. The next, I will be seeing some of the market housing and more rental housing. So and finally on the housing front, the improved quality of rentals due to what do we call it? The residential, whatever, the Mrs. bylaw.
Minimum rental standards bylaw.
Minimum rental standards bylaw. Mrs. bylaw. So that's given residents finally a voice. Right? If they're in a substandard building, they have a voice and an ability to get things corrected. So that's a huge step forward. Some of the other fun projects we've done in the meantime are downhill bike trails, our bike park, our fishing dock and pier and the boat launch. Fun projects to get done, gives more for our kids to do and some of our young at heart like Kari, who was a champion in a recent bike park event. Another important project, which is very quickly coming to fruition, is the community forest. I think we are very close to having that thing fully signed off. A great partnership representing a really broad section of the local economy, partnership with 3 First Nations bands on that. And there's a number of other significant capital projects which have done. We've talked about the food hub tonight, the fire hall, the daycare, the downtown washrooms. So the council has really motored in the last few terms of council. Finally, to me, the most important project that we have done as a city has been that we've got a really well cared for town. Our parks are outstanding. Our roads are fine. Our sidewalks and our facilities are good. And in particular, our emergency services do a great job looking after the town. The fire department, the police department, they do a great job. Our bylaw services. So in closing, I'd just like to say that Quesnel is an exceptional town. We've achieved a lot. It's been an honor to be a small part of this team. I'm not claiming credit for any one of those projects. I'm just saying it's been an honor to be a small part of that team that's made it happen. Council, staff, volunteers, and others who contributed so much have to take credit for that. So thank you for allowing me to participate. On a personal note, my wife and I, we are happy to be moving closer towards family. So my granddaughter, who's kind of my special person, my son, will be moving much closer to them, and we're really looking forward to this next phase in our lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Byron. Any comments from individual council members? It looks like Councillor Elliott is getting ready to say something. Go ahead, Councillor Elliott.
Yeah, thank you so much, Byron. It's been an absolute pleasure working with you over the years. You've always had an open door, which I think is extremely important. It has been for me to be able to bounce ideas and just have those open conversations has been something, and everything that you mentioned, all the achievements, it's been great. I think we've been very, very positive. Good luck to you where you're going. Clearwater is a very lucky community to be getting you. I'm disappointed that you're leaving because it's too soon, but it is what it is. So thank you once again.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Elliott. Anyone else? Okay. Then I will go to gallery questions. And are there any questions from the gallery? RJ, are you happy tonight? Thank you. Thank you, my friend.
Thanks, Barb. Good luck. Take care.
Okay, so we have no gallery questions at this point, so now I will call for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Byron, seconded by Councillor Runge and Councillor Vic. So all in favor? Carried. Thank you.